The galaxy was vast, filled with countless stars, planets, and mysteries waiting to be uncovered. Among the many intelligent species that called it home, humans were often seen as newcomers, small players on a grand stage dominated by ancient civilizations. But Zorvix, an alien anthropologist from the United Species Alliance, had always been fascinated by Earth's peculiar inhabitants. Humans intrigued him because of their adaptability, their unrelenting drive to survive even in the harshest conditions. What puzzled him most, though, was a recent discovery buried deep within classified data intercepted from a rogue probe. Zorvix sat in his dimly lit quarters aboard the research vessel Zenith, scrolling through lines of text displayed on a glowing screen. His elongated fingers tapped rhythmically against the console as he processed the information. The report claimed something extraordinary. Humans had not only survived but thrived on multiple Class 13 Deathworlds. To anyone familiar with galactic classifications, this sounded absurd. Class 13 planets were infamous for their extreme environments, places where temperatures could swing wildly, toxic gases poisoned the air, and monstrous creatures lurked in every shadow. No species had ever managed to live comfortably on such worlds without relying heavily on advanced technology or constant support from outside sources. Yet here was evidence suggesting humans had done just that. Zorvix leaned back in his chair, his large, bulbous eyes narrowing in thought. Could this be true? Or was it some elaborate fabrication designed to deceive? He couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this story than met the eye. If humans really had achieved what the report suggested, it would rewrite everything. The galaxy knew about them. It would mean they weren't just survivors. They were innovators capable of reshaping entire ecosystems to suit their needs. For Zorvix, the idea was both thrilling and unsettling. He decided then and there that he needed to investigate further. Halfway across the galaxy, on Earth, Jack Monroe prepared for his next assignment. A seasoned xenobiologist with years of experience studying alien flora and fauna, Jack had spent much of his career working on projects aimed at making inhospitable planets habitable. This time, however, his mission was different. He was heading to Epsilon 9, one of humanity's newest colonies located on a Class 13 planet. The colony was still in its early stages, but reports indicated that settlers were already managing to carve out a stable existence, despite the harsh conditions. Jack stood in the living room of his modest home, packing supplies into a weathered duffel bag. His wife Claire watched him quietly, her arms crossed over her chest. She didn't say anything at first, letting the silence stretch between them. Finally she spoke, her voice soft but firm. "You'll be careful, won't you?" Jack paused, looking up at her with a reassuring smile. "Of course," he replied. "I always am." Claire nodded, though her expression remained concerned. She walked over to him and placed a hand on his shoulder. "It's just, these places aren't like Earth, Jack. They're dangerous. I know you can handle yourself, but promise me you'll watch your back." "I promise," Jack said, pulling her into a hug. As he held her close, he felt a swell of pride mixed with determination. Humanity's ability to colonize worlds like Epsilon 9 represented something monumental, not just for their species, but for all life in the galaxy. It proved that no matter how daunting the challenge, humans could find a way to overcome it. That spirit of resilience was what made them unique, and Jack was honored to play a part in it. When the day of departure finally arrived, Jack boarded the transport ship bound for Epsilon 9 alongside other specialists and engineers. The journey took several weeks, during which Jack spent most of his time reviewing data about the colony and brainstorming ideas for improving agricultural yields in hostile environments. By the time they reached their destination, he was eager to get started. Epsilon 9 greeted them with its usual ferocity. The sky above the landing pad churned with dark clouds, and gusts of wind whipped dust into swirling vortexes. Despite the chaos, the settlement below appeared surprisingly orderly. Domes made of reinforced glass housed living quarters, laboratories, and greenhouses, while towering machines pumped filtered air into the atmosphere. Workers moved efficiently between structures, their movements purposeful and coordinated. As Jack stepped off the ship, He couldn't help but marvel at the scene before him. Children played outside under protective shields, laughing and shouting, as if oblivious to the dangers lurking just beyond the colony's perimeter. Farmers tended fields of genetically modified crops engineered to withstand radiation, while engineers monitored equipment designed to stabilize the ground against frequent seismic activity. It was a testament to human ingenuity, a thriving community built from nothing in the face of overwhelming odds. Little did Jack know someone else was watching him too. Hidden among the crowd of settlers, Zorvix observed silently, cloaked in holographic technology that allowed him to blend in perfectly. From his vantage point, he studied the interactions between humans, noting how effortlessly they adapted to challenges that would have overwhelmed most other species. Something about their behavior fascinated him, not just their technical prowess, but their unwavering optimism and camaraderie. For now, Zorvix kept his distance, content to gather information from afar. But deep down, he knew this visit wouldn't be enough. If he wanted answers, he would need to get closer, to immerse himself in their world and uncover the secrets behind humanity's improbable success. And so, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the colony, Zorvix began planning his next move. Zorvix had spent days observing the human colony on Epsilon 9, carefully staying in the shadows to avoid drawing attention. His holographic disguise allowed him to move freely among the settlers, blending in as just another face in the bustling community. He watched how humans went about their daily lives with a sense of purpose that seemed almost unnatural, given the planet's harsh conditions. Children played under protective domes. Farmers worked tirelessly in fields of bioengineered crops, and engineers maintained towering machines that kept the air breathable. Everything appeared so ordinary, yet it was anything but. Curiosity eventually got the better of Zorvix. He decided it was time to gather more direct information. Disguised as a trader, he approached Jack Monroe during a community gathering. The key event was lively, with settlers sharing stories, laughter, and food around a central fire pit. Jack stood near the edge of the crowd, sipping from a cup of steaming liquid while chatting with a few others. Zorvix waited for the right moment before stepping forward. "Excuse me," Zorvix said, his voice modulated to sound human. "I'm new here. Could you tell me how your people managed to live so comfortably on a planet like this?" Jack turned to face the stranger, his brow furrowing slightly at first, but then relaxing into a polite smile. "Sure," he replied. "It's not easy, but we've learned to adapt. Most of what you see here relies on symbiotic systems, genetically modified organisms working together with nanotechnology. It's all about finding balance with the environment instead of fighting against it." Zorvix nodded thoughtfully, though. Inside, his mind raced. The explanation sounded plausible enough, but it still didn't fully explain how humans could thrive where other species failed. He pressed further. "And the wildlife? The storms? How do you handle those without constant risk?" Jack gestured toward the distant horizon, where jagged cliffs loomed against the darkening sky. "We've developed early warning systems for natural disasters, and our buildings are designed to withstand extreme conditions. As for the wildlife, some species have been pacified through genetic engineering, while others are avoided altogether. We focus on creating safe zones rather than trying to conquer the entire planet." The conversation continued for several minutes, with Zorvix asking increasingly detailed questions. To any passerby, it might have looked like nothing more than casual small talk between two settlers. But Jack wasn't the only one paying attention. Nearby, Alex Carter, a mechanic known for his sharp instincts, had been listening intently. Something about the stranger's mannerisms struck him as odd. The way Zorvix tilted his head when speaking, the slight hesitation before answering questions. It all felt off. Alex excused himself from the group he'd been talking to and made his way over to Jack and Zorvix. "Hey, Jack," he interrupted, his tone friendly but firm. "Mind if I join?" Jack glanced at Alex, then back at Zorvix. "Of course," he said, stepping aside slightly to make room. For a moment, Zorvix tried to maintain his composure, but Alex's piercing gaze made him uneasy. "So," Alex began, addressing Zorvix directly, You're new here, huh? Where exactly did you come from? Zorvix hesitated, realizing too late that he hadn't prepared an answer for such a straightforward question. I, uh, I came from a nearby system, he stammered, his voice faltering slightly. Alex raised an eyebrow. A nearby system? That's funny because I don't recognize your accent and your posture. It's not quite right. Before Zorvix could respond, Alex reached out and grabbed his arm, pulling back the sleeve of his jacket. Underneath, faint, traces of shimmering light flickered across Zorvix's skin, the hologram beginning to malfunction under stress. Gasps rippled through the crowd as Zorvix's true form became visible. His elongated limbs, bulbous eyes, and smooth grayish skin left no doubt. He was an alien. Panic spread quickly, with settlers scrambling away from him. Some shouted accusations while others called for security. Zorvix acted fast, breaking, free from Alex's grip and darting toward the outskirts of the settlement. He knew he couldn't stay hidden any longer. As alarms blared and searchlights swept across the area, he fled into the wild expanse beyond the colony's borders. The landscape was treacherous, filled with jagged rocks, toxic pools, and unpredictable weather patterns. But Zorvix didn't stop. He needed to put as much distance between himself and the humans as possible. Hours passed as Zorvix navigated the unforgiving terrain. Exhaustion weighed heavily on him, and injuries sustained during his escape slowed him down. He stumbled into a shallow ravine, collapsing onto the cold ground. For the first time since arriving on Epsilon 9, he felt truly vulnerable. His disguise was gone, his mission compromised, and now he was stranded on a death world with no allies. As night fell, the temperature plummeted, and biting winds howled through the ravine. Zorvix shivered uncontrollably, his alien physiology ill-suited for the planet's extremes. Just as he began to lose hope, a beam of light pierced the darkness. Voices echoed nearby, growing louder as they approached. A patrol team led by Jack Monroe found him moments later. They were armed but cautious, scanning the area for threats. When they spotted Zorvix lying injured in the ravine, Jack signaled for the others to lower their weapons. "Wait," Jack called out, stepping closer. "He's hurt. We can't leave him here." One of the settlers, a young woman named Mia Dawson, protested. "Are you serious? That thing was spying on us?" "I know," Jack replied calmly. "But we're better than this. If we want to prove we're capable of living peacefully with other species, we need to start acting like it." Reluctantly, the team helped Zorvix to his feet and brought him back to the colony. Medical staff treated his wounds, stabilizing him, enough for questioning. Zorvix expected hostility, maybe even imprisonment. Instead, Jack visited him later that evening, sitting beside his bed in the infirmary. "Why did you come here?" Jack asked, his tone neutral but curious. Zorvix hesitated, unsure whether honesty would help or harm his situation. Finally, he spoke. "I wanted to understand how your people survived on this world. My kind believes it's impossible, that your reports must be false. I came to see for myself." Jack nodded slowly. "And now that you've seen it, what do you think?" Zorvix looked at him, his large eyes reflecting a mix of awe and confusion. "I think you're unlike any species I've ever encountered. You don't just survive. You adapt, innovate, and create. It's remarkable." Jack smiled faintly. "That's who we are. But if you really want to understand us, you'll need to stick around a little longer. See what we're made of." Zorvix considered Jack's words. Though wary of trusting humans completely, he realized this might be his only chance to learn the truth about their improbable success. With a nod, he agreed to cooperate. For now. Zorvix's recovery was slow but steady. The humans treated him with a mix of caution and curiosity, ensuring his wounds healed while keeping a close eye on his movements. Jack visited him often, bringing updates about the colony and sharing stories about humanity's struggles and triumphs. At first, Zorvix listened silently, unsure how to respond. But as days turned into weeks, he began asking questions, probing deeper into the mechanics of human survival on Epsilon 9. One morning, Jack invited Zorvix to join him on a tour of the settlement. It was an unusual request, given the tension that still lingered among some settlers, but Jack believed it was important for Zorvix to see firsthand how the colony operated. Reluctantly, Zorvix agreed, stepping outside for the first time since his capture. The air was thick with the scent of damp soil and metallic undertones from the atmospheric processors. Above them, the sky churned with dark clouds, lightning flickering in the distance. Yet despite the ominous weather, life within the colony buzzed with energy. Workers moved between domes carrying tools and supplies, while children played under protective shields, their laughter echoing through the open spaces. Jack led Zorvix to one of the greenhouses, where rows of bioengineered crops stretched as far as the eye could see. The plants glowed faintly, their leaves infused with nanotechnology designed to absorb radiation and convert it into nutrients. A young engineer named Mia Dawson greeted them at the entrance, her hands covered in dirt, as she adjusted a control panel. "These crops are key to our survival," Jack explained, gesturing toward the glowing fields. "They grow faster than normal plants and can survive conditions that would kill anything else." Mia nodded enthusiastically. "And they're not just food. They help clean the air too. Every plant here is part of a larger system." Zorvix stared in awe, his large eyes scanning the greenhouse. He had read about such innovations in reports, but seeing them in action was something entirely different. "How do you maintain balance?" he asked. "Surely there are risks." "There are," Jack admitted. "But we've learned to adapt. If one system fails, others step in to compensate. It's all about redundancy and teamwork." As they continued their tour, Zorvix witnessed more examples of human ingenuity. In the medical bay, doctors used advanced biotech to treat injuries caused by the planet's harsh environment. In the engineering sector, teams worked tirelessly to repair damaged infrastructure after a recent storm. Everywhere he looked, Zorvix saw evidence of resilience and cooperation, qualities he had underestimated in humans. Later that day, Jack took Zorvix to the edge of the colony, where a group of settlers was preparing for a dangerous mission. Their task was to repair a malfunctioning atmospheric processor located several kilometers away, deep in the planet's hostile wilderness. The processor was critical for maintaining breathable air, and its failure posed a significant threat to the colony. "This is one of the hardest parts of living here," Jack said, watching as the team loaded equipment onto transport vehicles. "We can't afford to let anything go unchecked." Zorvix watched intently as the team prepared to leave. Among them was Mia, who double-checked her gear before climbing aboard a rover. Her determination was evident, even as the wind whipped around her. Zorvix couldn't help but admire her courage. "Why do they volunteer for such dangerous work?" he asked. Jack smiled faintly. "Because they know the stakes. Everyone here understands that survival depends on everyone doing their part. It's not just about individual strength, it's about trust and unity." The next morning, Zorvix accompanied Jack to the command center, where monitors displayed real-time data from the repair mission. Static occasionally interrupted communications, but the team remained focused, relaying updates back to the colony. Hours passed before they finally reported success, their voices filled with relief and pride. As the team returned safely, Zorvix found himself reflecting on what he had seen. Humans were not invincible. They faced challenges and failures just like any other species. What set them apart was their ability to persevere, to find solutions even when the odds seemed insurmountable. They didn't rely solely on technology or brute force. They relied on each other. That evening, Jack joined Zorvix in the infirmary, where the alien was still recovering. "What do you think now?" Jack asked, his tone light but sincere. Zorvix hesitated before responding. "I think I understand why your people succeeded where others failed. It's not just your tools or your science, it's your spirit. You refuse to give up no matter how hard things get." Jack nodded, pleased with the answer. "Exactly. And if you want to prove that to your kind, maybe you should stay longer. Help us show them what we're capable of." The idea intrigued Zorvix, though he still harbored doubts about humanity's place in the galaxy. He couldn't deny the impact of what he had witnessed. For the first time, he considered the possibility that humans might truly be worthy of respect, not as primitive newcomers, but as equals. Over the following days, Zorvix immersed himself further in the colony's operations. He observed farmers tending to their crops, engineers troubleshooting complex machinery, and families gathering for meals despite the constant threat of danger. Each interaction reinforced his growing admiration for humanity's adaptability and resolve. One afternoon, as Zorvix stood beside Jack near the colony's perimeter, he voiced a thought that had been weighing on his mind. My people won't believe this unless they see it for themselves. Words alone won't convince them. Jack turned to him, his expression thoughtful. Then bring them here. Let them see what we've built. Show them that we're not just surviving. We're thriving. Zorvix nodded slowly, realizing Jack was right. If he wanted to change perceptions, he needed to provide undeniable proof. And perhaps in doing so, he could forge a new path forward, not just for his own kind, but for all species in the galaxy. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the colony, Zorvix felt a renewed sense of purpose. His journey had started with skepticism, but it was ending with understanding and the potential for something greater. Zorvix knew the task ahead would not be easy. Convincing the United Species Alliance to visit Epsilon 9 required more than just words. It demanded undeniable proof that humans were capable of thriving on a Class 13 death world. Armed with Jack's suggestion, Zorvix proposed a bold plan. Invite representatives from the Alliance to witness humanity's achievements firsthand. The idea was risky, but it was also their best chance to bridge the gap between species. Jack and the colony leaders agreed to the proposal, though not without hesitation. Some settlers worried about exposing their vulnerabilities to outsiders, while others feared how the delegation might react. Despite these concerns, Jack remained steadfast in his belief that transparency would foster trust. If we want to earn respect, he told the council, we need to show them who we really are. Not just our successes, but our struggles too. Preparations began immediately. Every settler pitched in to ensure the colony looked its best for the upcoming visit. Engineers worked around the clock to repair damaged infrastructure, farmers harvested extra crops to showcase their bioengineering efforts, and artists decorated communal spaces with murals depicting human resilience. Even the children played a role, rehearsing songs and dances to welcome the delegation. As the days passed, excitement mingled with tension. Settlers debated what the aliens might think of their home, sharing stories of past encounters with extraterrestrial beings. Most accounts were filled with suspicion and misunderstanding, making the prospect of hosting a delegation both thrilling and nerve-wracking. Through it all, Jack stayed focused, reminding everyone that this was an opportunity, not just to prove themselves, but to build connections that could benefit humanity for generations to come. Finally, the day of the delegation's arrival arrived. A sleek spacecraft descended from the sky, landing gently on the designated pad outside the colony. Its surface shimmered with iridescent colors, hinting at advanced technology far beyond anything the settlers possessed. As the ship's doors opened, a group of alien dignitaries stepped out, led by Kael'thar, a stern-looking ambassador known for his sharp intellect and unyielding skepticism. Kael'thar scanned the area with piercing eyes, taking in every detail. Behind him, other members of the delegation followed, each representing a different species within the United Species Alliance. Their forms varied wildly, from insectoid creatures with clicking mandibles to aquatic beings encased in transparent bubbles, but they all shared one thing, an air of superiority that made the settlers uneasy. Jack approached the group with a confident smile, extending a hand in greeting. "Welcome to Epsilon 9, he said. "We're honored to have you here." Kael'thar regarded him coolly, ignoring the gesture. "Your invitation intrigued us," he replied, his voice deep and measured. "But do not mistake curiosity for approval. We are here to verify claims, not to celebrate unsubstantiated boasts." The comment drew murmurs from the crowd, but Jack kept his composure. "Understood," he said. Let us show you what we've built. Over the next several hours, the delegation toured the colony, observing every aspect of human life on Epsilon 9. They visited greenhouses where glowing crops thrived in toxic soil, marveled at machines that filtered poisonous air into breathable oxygen, and witnessed engineers repairing equipment battered by relentless storms. At each stop, settlers explained their roles in maintaining the colony, emphasizing teamwork and innovation as the keys to their survival. Despite their initial skepticism, cracks began to form in the delegation's rigid demeanor. One ambassador, a bird-like creature named Vrilak, expressed admiration for the settlers' ability to adapt to such extreme conditions. Another, a gelatinous being called Trelgor, praised the ingenuity behind the colony's symbiotic systems. Even Kael'thar seemed impressed, though he hid it well beneath his stoic exterior. The highlight of the tour came during a demonstration of human nanotech hybrids. In a barren field outside the colony, scientists activated a device designed to neutralize toxins in real time. As the machine hummed to life, the ground transformed before their eyes. Dead earth sprouted vibrant vegetation, and the air grew noticeably fresher. Gasps rippled through the delegation, followed by whispered conversations in multiple languages. "This is remarkable," Vrilak said, her feathers ruffling in excitement. "You've turned death into life." Jack nodded, pride swelling in his chest. "It's not perfect, and it took years of trial and error, but it works because we never gave up." After the demonstration, the delegation gathered in the colony's central dome for a formal meeting. Kael'thar addressed the settlers, his tone softer than before. "What you have achieved here is extraordinary," he admitted. "It challenges everything we thought we knew about your species." "But?" Jack prompted, sensing there was more. "But," Kael'thar continued, "there are still questions. Can this success be replicated elsewhere? Are you truly ready to join the galactic community as equals?" Before Jack could respond, Zorvik stepped forward. "I once doubted them too," he said, drawing the room's attention. "I came here, expecting to find lies or exaggerations. Instead, I found something far greater, a species defined not by fear or despair, but by hope and determination. If you want proof of their worth, look no further than this colony." His words hung in the air, met with silence. Then, slowly, Kael'thar nodded. "Very well," he said. "We will take your achievements under consideration. But know this, earning trust requires more than demonstrations. It demands consistency and commitment." The settlers exchanged glances, relief washing over them. Though the verdict wasn't final, it was a step in the right direction, a recognition of their efforts and potential. Later that evening, as the delegation prepared to depart, Zorvix lingered behind. He had decided to stay on Epsilon 9 temporarily, eager to deepen his understanding of human culture. Jack joined him on a hill overlooking the colony, watching as the alien ship lifted off into the night sky. "You did good today," Jack said, breaking the silence. "So did you," Zorvix replied. "Your people have earned my respect and hopefully theirs as well." Jack smiled faintly, gazing at the glowing domes below. "This is just the beginning. There's still so much work to do, but I believe we're ready for whatever comes next." Zorvix nodded, feeling a sense of optimism he hadn't experienced in years. For the first time, he saw a future where humans and aliens could coexist, not as adversaries, but as partners. And in that moment, he realized the true power of humanity, their ability to inspire change even in the most unlikely places. The days following the delegation's visit were filled with a mix of relief and anticipation. The settlers of Epsilon 9 had poured their hearts into showcasing their achievements, and now they waited to see if their efforts would bear fruit. Jack Monroe spent much of his time checking in with the colony's leaders, discussing potential outcomes and preparing for whatever came next. Zorvix, meanwhile, continued to immerse himself in human life, eager to learn more about the species he had once underestimated. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in shades of orange and purple, Jack and Zorvix sat together on a hill overlooking the colony. Below them, the domes glowed softly, their lights reflecting off the protective shields that kept the harsh environment at bay. Children played under the artificial twilight, while farmers tended to fields that shimmered faintly in the fading light. It was a scene of quiet resilience, a testament to humanity's ability to carve out a home even in the most unforgiving places. "You know," Zorvix began, breaking the silence, "I used to think your kind was reckless, impulsive, but now I see something else." Jack glanced at him, curious. "What do you see?" "Hope," Zorvix replied simply. "Even when faced with impossible odds, you refuse to give up. You don't just survive, you create. You build. You dream." Jack chuckled softly, shaking his head. "It's not always easy. Sometimes it feels like we're barely holding on. But you're right. We don't give up. Maybe that's what makes us human." Zorvix nodded thoughtfully, his large eyes scanning the landscape. "That trait is rare in the galaxy. Most species cling to what they know, afraid to take risks. But you embrace uncertainty. You turn chaos into order." The conversation shifted to the future. Both men knew the Alliance's decision would shape not just the fate of Epsilon 9, but humanity's place among the stars. If the United Species Alliance recognized their achievements, it could open doors to new opportunities, partnerships, resources, and knowledge that could help humanity expand further into the galaxy. But rejection would mean returning to the shadows, struggling to prove themselves once again. "I have faith in your people," Zorvix said after a pause. "Even if the Alliance hesitates, you'll find a way forward. That's what you do." Jack smiled, appreciating the sentiment. "Thanks. We'll need all the support we can get." As the weeks passed, news from the Alliance trickled in slowly. Reports suggested that Kael'thar and his team were divided in their opinions. Some were impressed by humanity's accomplishments, while others remained skeptical, questioning whether humans were truly ready for galactic integration. The debate dragged on, leaving the settlers anxious but determined to stay focused on their daily lives. Then, one morning, a message arrived. The Alliance had reached a decision. The announcement was made in the colony's central dome, where settlers gathered to hear Jack deliver the news. His voice echoed through the space as he read aloud from a datapad. "The United Species Alliance has agreed to recognize our achievements on Epsilon 9, he said, his tone steady but tinged with pride. "They acknowledge our ability to adapt and thrive in extreme environments, and they've pledged to explore ways to collaborate moving forward." Cheers erupted throughout the room, echoing off the walls as settlers hugged one another, tears streaming down their faces. For years they had fought to prove themselves not just to the galaxy but to each other. Now, finally, their hard work had paid off. But the celebration was tempered by a sense of responsibility. Jack reminded everyone that this was only the beginning. "Recognition isn't enough," he said. "We need to keep pushing, keep innovating. This is our chance to show the galaxy what we're capable of, not just here, but everywhere." Zorvix stood quietly in the back of the room, watching the scene unfold. He felt a swell of emotion he hadn't expected: pride, admiration, and perhaps even a touch of envy. Humans had achieved something remarkable, not because they were stronger or smarter than other species, but because they refused to let fear dictate their choices. They embraced challenges instead of avoiding them, turning obstacles into stepping stones. After the gathering, Zorvix approached Jack, who was surrounded by well-wishers offering congratulations. When the crowd thinned, Zorvix spoke. "You've earned this moment," he said. "But remember, this is just the first step." Jack nodded, understanding the weight of those words. "We won't stop here. There's too much left to do." In the days that followed, the colony buzzed with renewed energy. Plans were drawn up for expanding agricultural zones, improving infrastructure, and exploring nearby regions of the planet. Settlers worked tirelessly, driven by a shared vision of a brighter future. Even Zorvix joined in, using his knowledge of alien technology to suggest improvements to existing systems. His presence became less of an anomaly and more of a symbol of the bridge forming between humans and the rest of the galaxy. Eventually, the time came for Zorvix to leave. Though he had grown fond of the settlers, he knew his mission was far from over. Returning to the United Species Alliance, he intended to advocate for greater collaboration with humanity, sharing stories of their resilience and ingenuity. Before departing, he met with Jack one last time. "I'll do everything I can to ensure your people are treated fairly," Zorvix promised. "But the rest is up to you." Jack extended a hand, which Zorvix grasped firmly. "Thank you for everything, and good luck." As Zorvix boarded his ship and ascended into the sky, Jack watched from below, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. The journey ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time, humanity wasn't walking it alone. Bonds had been forged, trust had been earned, and possibilities stretched endlessly before them. That night, as Jack stood on the same hill where he and Zorvix had talked so often, he gazed at the stars above. Somewhere out there, countless worlds awaited exploration, worlds that might one day become home to human colonies just like Epsilon 9. Challenges lay ahead, no doubt, but Jack felt confident in humanity's ability to face them. Beside him, Claire joined him, wrapping an arm around his waist. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" she said, her voice soft. "It is," Jack replied, smiling. "And it's ours, to protect, to explore, to share." Together, they stood in silence, marveling at the vastness of the universe and the small yet significant role humanity played within it. For all its dangers and uncertainties, the galaxy held promise, a promise of unity, discovery, and hope. And as long as humans dared to dream, they would continue to reach for the stars.